Hi Nymfam, welcome to 5 Things FPL. Hope you are all doing good. There's still some fixtures to come in the ever extending Game Week 23, but there's plenty to chat about ahead of Game Week 24. So let's get Fergie in and get on with discussing all the top talking points ahead of the weekend. So hi buddy, what's occurring? How you doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks, Nim. It's the longest game week, I think, in the history of the world.
In the history of the world.
We're going to look at Dennis, captain in my team for the past 2 weeks. I'm still going to do it for another week or so as well.
I know.
But,
I know.
I'm kind of over it now. But yeah, really good. And looking forward to the next few weeks. There's a lot, I think there's a lot of opportunities to be different, and to really kind of accelerate rank. So yeah, excited for it.
Definitely. I think it'll be a good one, quite exciting, lots of blanks, lots of doubles coming up. So if you still got, Dennis in your team, still staring at him as captain like we are, then, don't worry about it. It's almost over. Just one more weekend to endure and then we'll be moving on and hopefully we can pick up the baton and move forward and onwards and upwards. So with that, let's look ahead to Game Week 24 and think about our captaincy options. Now, this is quite a difficult one because Salah is now technically in the AFCON until the end of the tournament, because even if he loses tomorrow evening, there is a third place playoff on the same day as the final. That said, if he does lose, there is a potential Egypt could release him early, possibly. I mean, we'd have to wait and see on this one. With this in mind, I think it leaves the captaincy field absolutely wide open, doesn't it, Fergie?
Absolutely. I've never seen, well, I've never seen, this season definitely is the widest open, I think.
Agreed.
I think there's been, as you say about Salah, it's a difficult one because Man United have the two home doubles in 25. It's likely that we'll want a Man United player to be captain in 25, but then Liverpool do have Norwich at home in 26. So I think we can maybe get away potentially with not getting Salah in for 24 because we know we'll captain a United player the following week anyway. But then Salah against Leicester, if he is fit, if he is starting, he could be, he could absolutely go off because Leicester defensively have been absolutely horrific these last 2 weeks. I think Harry Kane had 10 shots against them,
that's crazy.
A couple of weeks ago. So other options, Bowen has been absolutely on fire. He's facing Watford defence who are all over the shop. They've got a new manager, but it's going to be hard for Watford to get a bounce straight away. Hodgson goes in. Hodgson historically tries to tighten up teams and stuff, but West Ham playing so well. Bowen's playing so well that I think Bowen is a really good option here as well. And then you've got Cancelo, who's had an amazing season. Home to Brentford, fantastic fixture. You've got De Bruyne, who, according to all the predicted points, tools and stuff, is going to be the highest scorer in Game Week 24, and over the next, over the medium term as well. But he's very kind of low owned, and there are many other options as well. So I think at the moment, I was having a look this morning at my kind of best team for next week. I've put out the captaincy on Cancelo.
Okay.
But could bring in De Bruyne. Could change it to Bowen. We just have to get those kind of up to date, team news, information, injury news, and make a decision there. What are your thoughts at the moment?
So I think a lot of the polls are leaning towards KDB as being the kind of standout captaincy. And at the moment, I think for myself, I have a route to him where I was going to go Salah. And so I think potentially I may do that, and I'll be with some safety of percentage with KDB captaincy, although as you say he's still quite lowly owned. So I think the fact that he's highly in the percentage polls doesn't necessarily mean he's going to hurt massively if he goes big, but he's also potentially a good opportunity as well to gain some good rank.
Yes.
A little, we'll discuss a little bit more about rotation with City a bit later on, I'm sure, but I think Kane, maybe if you're wildcarding at the moment against Southampton, looking like a potential shout. And yeah, loving the Bowen pick. Maybe a Maverick pick could be Antonio if you wanted to go out there. He's had a bit of a rest now, a couple of weeks rest. He could could potentially be one to consider. Would you have any really out there? I guess Cancelo's a bit out there, really. I mean, not necessarily for in your team, but to stick the captaincy armband on, really.
I think, yeah. Well, I think for captaincy, I think he's played every single Premier League game this season. Obviously, historically, the risk has always been around his playing time. But home to Brentford, I was just looking, and they beat Brentford 1-0 away in game week 20 because there's a short turnaround with this fixture. I would expect him to keep a clean sheet as a minimum. I don't think he's that much of a risk, actually. I think going against what I think it's easier to keep a clean sheet for a top defender than it is for an attacker to score a goal. It's how I kind of see it. But he's also got that attacking intent as well. I think other ones, you would guess that Jota.
Oh yeah, good
is going to play.
Good shout.
You would guess against Leicester. You would guess Trent is going to play as well. I just think there's about 7 or 8 options you can go with. For those looking for maybe an uber differential, Son is back in full training, is expected to be fit as well. So if you wanted to jump on him, nice. If you're really looking for just to be different, he could be one as well.
Absolutely. So we have some people in the chat. Hey, Dizzy. Roberto says that he's going to be captaining Gallagher this game week, so quite like that. Nuclear, we're going to be discussing a little bit about some of the newcomers in the who to buy section, if that's any help to you. All right, let's move on to discussion point number 2. And I think the big discussion point this week with a lot of people wildcarding is, do we focus on premium, like 2 premium midfielders, or 1 premium forward and 1 premium midfielder going forward? What's your thoughts on this, Fergie? So where are you standing currently, and where are you trying to shift to, if at all?
So, and it's fantastic we've got here, but there are currently probably about 4 or 5 different premium options, which are all very viable. KDB has not really been an option for most of the season. Bruno has not really been an option for most of the season either. But now we find that those two, along with Salah, Kane, potentially Son, and a few others as well, are all in there fighting, and getting the right 2 is nearly an impossible call, because obviously you don't know. I think my advice would be to just set your team right structurally, so you've got 2 positions there that you can quickly move between. I think ideally you'd probably want a premium midfielder slot, maybe a premium forward slot. Even though Kane and Ronaldo, there is an argument that kind of Bruno and Salah would are going to outperform both Kane and Ronaldo over the next 2 or 3. But I think for me, it's not to spread your funds so much across the team that you can only get in one. I think that's the info, and that's the thing I'm focusing on, because at the moment I haven't got any premiums in my team. I've got like 10 million in the bank.
Okay.
So that I can get very quickly back to Salah, get up to Ronaldo or whoever it is. I think going into game week 25 is the important one, because if we get any kind of inkling, that Bruno or Ronaldo are injured or may not be in favour or whatever else, I think we can quickly move down 25 to that player. So I think that's my advice, is to just make sure that you've got the funds available to move very, very quickly, onto 1 or 2. Onto 2. In terms of my favourites at the moment, and it could all change from next week, but I think I'm probably going to leave Salah for next week. I think there's enough of a risk that he doesn't play against Leicester. And I think there are some really good, other captaincy options. So I would say probably Ronaldo, if it looks like he's back fully in the team and playing 90 minutes, I'd say Ronaldo for 25 with Bruno probably a close second, and probably De Bruyne for the next two, with a view then to maybe move one of those two onto Salah in game week 26. So hopefully that answers the question in a very, very kind of roundabout way. But we are still nearly a week from the deadline, aren't we? Yeah. So it's very hard to be really specific. What are your thoughts on the premiums now?
So actually, I've been leaning more towards the 2 premium midfielders. I've got a couple of stats here, which is quite interesting. So there's not actually a lot to split all of the premium mids with the premium forwards. So KDB has 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 5 games. Bruno has 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 3 games. Ronaldo, 1 goal and 1 assist in 5 game weeks. Both came against Burnley. Kane, 3 goals and 1 assist in the last 5 game weeks. So looking at that, Ronaldo looks the weakest of the bunch, but we all know that, he only needs 1 match really to kind of pop off, let's say. I think based on that, if I was wildcarding, I'd probably edge towards maybe Kane and Bruno just to cover that double fixture. But I also really love the double up in midfield, and that's kind of what I'll be working towards. So quite like the whole Bruno KDB situation if I was on a wild card, because I think it allows you to move any one of those on to Salah and still have a premium forward. And not only that, I think, a premium midfield, an extra premium midfielder. And I think it also allows for you to move on to Son, say, with the second option, if you wanted to get back into Spurs for their double. But also, I think with so many budget options available in midfield, as you say, it's so easy to downgrade and then push the funds back forward. So I think I just about edge more on the 2 premium midfielders than I do on just because Ronaldo's, well, it's probably bias after going for him in that double and then missing out on Bruno's points and then making the switch over to Bruno. So it's probably a little bit of bias there. But yeah, I think I'd struggle with which premium forward to go with, because on paper and form, Kane seems like the better option. But obviously with Ronaldo having the double fixture, it would be very tempting to go with that one. And I think therein lies more of my problem, because I think I'd know pretty much my wild card if I was going with 2 premium midfielders, that it would be KDB and Bruno straight away. So I think that's probably, where I imagine.
It probably is worth mentioning as well that I think it's quite likely now that Spurs are going to have a double in 26 as well, against Man City and Brighton. And that's an interesting one, because Liverpool will be home to Norwich, but then Spurs will have a double, and it's like, which way do you go? Do you really want to go against Salah at home to Norwich for the captaincy?
So could you, if you had, for instance, what I'm working towards, have Bruno and KDB for 24 and 25, and then move both of those on to Salah and Son for 26, which would be quite nice, I think, because that's the week that you said Liverpool have Norwich. So you'd get Norwich from KDB. So you go KDB against Norwich and then on to Salah, who has Norwich. And then you'd get a double from Bruno and then potentially a double from Son, which seems quite nice potentially there. So that would, again, potentially edge me back. But I guess you could do the same with Ronaldo and Kane if you wanted.
The only thing, and this is why it's so hard, is that United are away to Leeds in 26, but then they're home to Watford in 27 as well. So, we could potentially be taking out Bruno or Ronaldo ahead of two very, very good attacking fixtures as well.
Yeah.
Joe, what? It may even be an idea if you are wildcarding just to try and maybe get premium spots, because there's enough like value now. Obviously, the fact that Chelsea defenders are no longer an option, the fact that Brosher, just for example, is a really good premium option. Premium option is a really good budget option in his own right. Maybe players like Ramsey for Villa, they could really even enable you to get 3 premiums potentially, because this period of this next 4 game weeks, ADB, Salah, Kane, and United's premiums have all got fantastic and plentiful matches as well. So could even be an option there.
Yeah. Hey, Focus in the chat. John says we can use our free hit in game week 7 as a potential option. So
in 27, is this sorry?
Yeah.
27. Okay, cool.
So
yeah, that's a good show.
I guess you could cover it that way, and then obviously the other two could come back in. So that's another way of looking at it. Okay, let's move on to number 3. And as always, it's who, if we have them in our team, or maybe if we do have them in our team, who would we ship out? And Fergie, it's it's a tough one. We've all been staring at our teams now for 2 weeks. Is there anyone that you're itching to get out of your squad?
Well, the Chelsea defenders, for one, I've been itching to get out for weeks and weeks, but now we have to, because they haven't got a game for. They only play once in the next 3 weeks. The next 4 game weeks. So I'm finally. Well, I say that I've still got Rudy on my team, but I'm not sure if I can get him out this week, because I may have to make a more, a transfer to bring in a KDB or something like that. But Chelsea defenders, definitely get rid of all your Chelsea players. I'm sure, talk about wildcard later, but there'll be opportunity to wildcard them all back in later on in the season, either maybe 28, maybe 30, for example. Just get rid, and even if you are holding on to maybe Alonso, that as well. Both Reece James and Chilwell, I believe, are both back in training now. I don't mean full training, but they could be back for 28, 29, and 30. And obviously, they're far better options than Alonso and even Rudiger, etc. So Chelsea, for me, I'd be getting them out. In terms of other ones, it's just quite hard, because
isn't it funny how we're like jumping on the ship to get rid of Chelsea, but then there's a fair few of us sat here with Brighton and we're like, oh, hold. I guess they have the double, which helps.
They got the double in 25. Yeah, I've got Trossard in my team. I'll be benching him this week.
Yeah,
but they do have United and Watford, which I think are actually quite good attacking fixtures in 25. So I'll be holding up for him. But Chelsea, as I said, they got 1 game. It's away to Palace, who have been playing very well as well. That's their 1 game in the next 4 game weeks. So I'd be getting rid. And Chelsea have also got Plymouth in the FA Cup this weekend, which will likely cause them another blank. I think that would be, is it 29 as well? But yeah, they're going to have a really kind of back-ended fixture list. So yeah, get off Chelsea. Have you got anyone else there who's getting on your wick, you can't wait to get rid of?
Oh, do you know, it's tough to know what to do with the Watford lads now, not going to lie to you. I mean, I'm double at the front with them, obviously, for this double game week. Dennis will be back for game week 24, so anyone who owns him, he'll miss out on this next fixture in your double game week, but he will be back for game week 24. So, well, I mean, I say he'll be available. Whether or not he'll, be selected is another situation entirely with a new manager. But yeah, I think their fixtures coming forward don't look that great. We've got some new blood in the Premier League in terms of forwards, so potentially they could be moving on fairly soon for me. And yeah, I guess it's really just that. It's kind of a week, unless you're wildcarding, where I think you pretty much hold with as many of your players that you have already, just to kind of clear this, this midweek fixture. And then with lots more information, you can really think about, how to go forward. So I guess it will just be a case of, whichever premium player it is you feel you most likely need in your team, whether that be Salah if he's returning, or KDB or whatnot. So please, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, please do hit a like on it. It would be really great to get 40 likes on the stream. Okay, moving on to discussion point number 4, and it is, who do we get in to our teams, ahead of Game Week 24? And I know we've discussed, the premium assets, but are there some other kind of middle ground, maybe your likes of Digne, people like that, maybe some new recruits that you're really considering getting into your team for Game Week 24?
You stole Digne out of my mouth. He's what I'm very excited about, and Villa in general. In all honesty, the next 3: home to Leeds, away to Newcastle, home to Watford, and we still haven't had these double game week announcements.
still waiting for Villa to have a myriad of matches.
Everything up, but Villa for me are the team I'm most excited about, and I think the two I'm probably I think Luca Digne is probably top of my wanted list. We've all had a pretty settled back line now, for the last, since game week kind of 10 or 11, with kind of a Chelsea defender, Trent, Cancelo, Livramento, just for example. But I think, I think it's time for Luca Digne now. I think he was fantastic at Everton when he played well. It looks like, he's been given freedom of Villa. He's on, he's playing wide and advanced on that left-hand side. They've got some fantastic fixtures. He's on set pieces as well. What's not to like with him? I think he's a superstar. And then the other one for Villa, I'm pretty torn between Watkins and Coutinho. I think Watkins always tends to flatter to deceive in terms of he tends to look the most dangerous, but doesn't necessarily translate into FPL points. With Coutinho, obviously, he burst onto the scene with in his first game, didn't do anything in the next game. So I think you maybe afford to, wait a week this week and just have another look at that Villa attack. Look at the dynamic. Look at how they're playing together. Buendia's another one potentially. Even though I think he made his debut for Argentina this week.
Okay.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of scope. They go, let's say, Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton, West Ham. They're the next 6 fixtures, and there will be a double in there as well. So they're the ones I'm really excited about. Who are you targeting them?
I even really like Ramsey in that pick for a really cheap, price range, and maybe as an enabler with all those fixtures coming up. I really like Digne, but if I go KDB this week, then I'm very unlikely to be able to switch Rudiger to him. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to downgrade for those extra few funds, but I think he is, if you're on a wild card or if you have no other fires to put out and you want to get rid of your Chelsea guys, he just seems like the logical option to move on to, really. Little bit of chat then about the new people to the league. We've got some new strikers, which pains me that we have so many new strikers in the Premier League and none of them signed for Arsenal, which is just frustrating as hell. However, City have picked up Alvarez, which is a great signing, and it will be nice potentially to have a striker that we can buy again from City. So I'm loving to wait and see what he's going to do there. We also have Dele. He's moved, obviously, now to Everton, 6.2 million. What do we think of that signing? Fergie was a Spurs man. Are you happy to be rid of him?
How do you rid of it? I'm getting away because he was part of Spurs, probably best team in my lifetime. That team they had around 2018. They had a fantastic team. They pushed for the league, lost in the Champions League final. You know, they had a a really good team around that period. He's a massive part of that, you know, and he scored some amazing goals as well. So I have some incredible memories. It just doesn't seem to be working for him at the moment with Spurs.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in Everton now, actually, because the next, again, just in the short term, the next three are pretty good. And Newcastle, Leeds, and Southampton. Obviously, they signed Van der Beek as well, you know. So it's interesting. I think if I was holding on to Calvert-Lewin, I think I'd hold on to him for the next three, because I think with the new manager in Lampard as well, and with Ali and Van der Beek coming in, it's going to be a completely different Everton we're going to see with the next three. Obviously, we don't know whether that's going to be for the good or not, but I probably wouldn't buy Ali or buy Van der Beek. But if I was holding on to Calvert-Lewin, I would hold on to him, I suppose, is my answer there.
Yeah, I've been kind of debating what to do with Gray, because Gray is kind of my way up to a premium midfielder.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether these new signings may or may not kind of make him more of an option again. But he is that nice price point, I guess, where it's easy to get back to if I want to. Eriksen to Brentford was a bit of a shock. Big Eriksen fan, you know, he liked him even when he was at Spurs, and it's nice to see him back and in the Premier League. And what do we think of him as an option, though? Like, seriously, just like initial reactions. Are we thinking he's going to be one to consider for our teams?
I don't think he's played is the problem. He hasn't played, so he's, you know, I don't think he's played. I want to say, you know, since the Euros, obviously, you know, kind of when it happens, that, you know, is obviously an issue. But I think in terms of timeliness, I think the next three games for Brentford, you know, are very tough in terms of City, Palace, and Arsenal.
Yeah.
Then go on a run after that, Newcastle, Norwich, Burnley. So I think we can afford to wait. You know, it's the most boring answer in the world, but this is a kind of, you know, a perfect opportunity to put it into use. You can watch him for a couple of games. You can see if he even starts. He might even start. You know, so I think it's just, you know, it's a pure wait and see. I think, you know, with players like Ali and Van der Beek, for example, I think we could see some returns, you know, or some different Everton performances.
Well, Dele has like that bonus contract, doesn't he? Where if he does well, he get extra money, which will always incentivize a player. So that'll be interesting.
Whereas with Eriksen, like I say, because the fact he hasn't played, because they've got hard fixtures, he's very, very much a wait and see. But he is an absolute class act. I think when he was in his prime at Spurs, you know, you could probably put him, you know, in this sort of world class sort of category. Let's just hope, you know, he gets back to that, because if he is a 5.5 million, you know, he could even make Tony and Mbomo decent options again. Dare we go back?
My gosh. Yeah. Okay, what do we think of Weghorst at 6.5 million? A lot of chat that he's done well previously, but last season was a little bit off for him.
Yeah, I like. He's just so tall. I think that's the thing everyone's looking at. Everyone's just going, he's so tall.
That's the takeaway from the stream, people. Is that Weghorst is tall. Who cares about FPL?
I think if the Watford game, because obviously the Watford game is locked in now to this game week, so we can't pick him for this game anyway.
Yeah.
I think he might be interesting, because obviously Watford's defence is all over the place. But you know they go United, Liverpool, Brighton, Palace, Chelsea. It's not really an option, you know. It's similar to the kind of Eriksen. It's, you know, it's not like that. These, if you look at maybe Coutinho and Digne, the new signs for Villa, they coincide beautifully with some incredible fixtures, whereas these other ones don't really. So I'm excited to see kind of what he can do. I think he'll fit in for Burnley, you know, absolutely perfectly. But you know, I don't think we're going to look at him in the next 5 or 6 weeks purely because of the fixtures and purely because of all the premiums, all the other, you know, Ollie Watkins maybe, and you know, we've mentioned Antonio for the next 3 or 4 as well. There's just not enough room for him, so maybe interested. You know, maybe end of March onwards potentially. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like his price point. I think it's a definite wait and see for me. He's a definite watch list player. I'll be kind of giving him a couple of game weeks, I think, before deciding, and by then I'll be potentially looking at wild carding. So, hopefully I'll have that info under my belt before, I can move him in. Diaz at 8 million, Liverpool. What are we thinking on that?
I gotta be honest, I don't know a lot about him.
I don't know much about him
Apart
either.
from what I've obviously heard of him.
Yeah,
Heard he's pretty good.
same.
Lot of potential. Looked at his YouTube clips this week.
Yeah.
He looks really, really sharp. Liverpool's fixtures, like I say, are very, very good. They do blank in 27. They're probably going to double in 26. Actually, just remember that as well. But it's going to be hard to. I think the one thing it does with Diaz, I don't think Diaz is kind of an immediate option.
Yeah.
With Salah, Mane, Jota, and Firmino there. I think one thing it may do is potentially put us off Jota, just a little bit more. Because apparently he plays predominantly on the left-hand side, which would be Mane's position, but he can play anywhere across the front three. So I think the only thing it does for me in the short term is maybe put me off Jota or Mane
I'm just
a
gonna
little bit
sort my
more.
battery out. You keep talking.
No, it's fine. So yeah, I don't think you're gonna bring him in ahead of Salah or Mane or Jota in the short term. But again, he's definitely one to look at potentially after their blank in 27 onwards. But I just can't see it at the moment in the short term, especially as we're all kind of packed up on Jota and Trent, and we're gonna be bringing in Salah as well. Not sure how much more I could talk about Liverpool. Newcastle are interesting, I think, just in terms of I don't think there's any obvious options to kind of go for, but I do expect to tighten up a little bit. Newcastle,
Hello.
Trippier,
I don't know what
maybe
happened
Wood.
Live, coming to you live.
Go.
Yeah, thanks for that. I like in the second Bruno pick for Newcastle. Everyone like, which Bruno are we gonna be calling Bruno, which is quite funny. And Undev, I think, for Brighton. Now, what do we think on that? Do we think that might impact on Mopé's minutes or any of those? Welbeck maybe not getting as much game time.
Obviously they blank this next game week now, and then they double. I just don't think you're going to be bringing him in for a double, are you? We're without even kind of seeing him play. Even if you'd have had one match and you could have watched him in 24 and gone, oh my goodness, he looks incredible.
Yeah,
but we're not going to get that at all. So I think he'll get some minutes, but it's just again the board old wait and see. I think for that, we don't know much about him at all, to be honest.
There's not many at the moment that we'd just, I think, like straight away instinctively just pick up and drop into our teams. Really, is there? I mean, it's just a bit of a wait and see. Thanks, Nuclear. Enjoy your class, buddy. Okay, let's move on to our fifth discussion point, and it's a bit of a kind of more expanded question rather than just when to use your wildcard. Now, plenty have activated their wildcard in this international break. For a lot of people, it's just been to kind of curve the boredom, I suppose.
Yeah,
but my thought around this discussion point was not if we should be hitting it, but if we should be sticking to the norm of waiting on that game week 30 kind of I guess base point. So in the community, kind of game week 30 is the time when people say wait to use your second wild card. I think it seems to be as close to that as you can get, really, and then use your wild card. Is this a season where we should be sticking to that layout, or is this particular season dictated that a manager uses their wild card if and when they need it, really? Yeah, I think that's kind of my thought process about when to wildcard.
So when I play fantasy, and not just FPL, this applies to other games as well. How I tend to react to decisions like this is where my rank is at the time. So I'll use an example. I'm doing pretty well in other formats. So, in like Telegraph and Sky, whereas probably the FPL, I think I'm ranked about 123k at the moment, which is probably not where I want to be. I want, I need a bit of a boost. I need to push the button at some point to try and find that, find that edge.
Yeah.
I always look for opportunity to kind of do that. I don't try and force, I look for opportunity. And I think that I think it's very much kind of rank dependent on whether you're looking to play a kind of defensive, if you're really happy where you are and you want to push on really slowly, I think you carry on and play the template because, that's probably the right thing to do and the sensible thing to do. I think if you're looking for a bit of a boost, I think you can maybe afford to play it earlier. I think there's a couple of places potentially where we can play it earlier. I was looking to play it actually. If we'd have had the fixtures through for 26 and 27, etc., any kind of more double information, or if there'd been more doubles put into 25,
Yeah.
I was tempted to wildcard either this week or next week to try and just attack that period a bit more. We kind of mentioned all those premiums there. I don't own one of them at the moment, so I haven't got De Bruyne, Kane, Bruno, Ronaldo. I haven't got any of those players.
You got all the money and none of the transfers to use it.
Exactly that. Whereby if I was ranked maybe, where I want to be, kind of 5 or 10k, I may just think, well, I'm happy enough plodding along. Like worst comes to worst, I'll take a small red, just wait till next week. I think I'm probably in a position now with, just over a third of the season left where I'm thinking I maybe need a bit of a boost. So I think 25, I think before, I think either before 24 or before 25, we should definitely get some fixture news for,
hopefully
26, 28, maybe wherever it is, kind of doubles and stuff. And then and then we can play a bit aggressive, even if more fixtures drop into 25 in this next week, which I don't think they will, but they might. And then we get the ones for 26. You may look at them and think, oh, do you know what, actually, like a wild card now with those in mind. I think the thing with wildcarding this week for me is most of the popular players have got really good fixtures. So, for example, I wouldn't want to take Antonio out ahead of Watford. Just as an example. Another place I think you could go is maybe 28. So, you can dead end your team into either 26, free hit in 27, and then wildcard out into 28. Because a lot of teams like West Ham, Man United, their fixtures really, really turn. We're all, we are all kind of loaded up on those sorts of players. And there's some other teams then that will have lots of doubles and good fixtures. Teams like Leicester, maybe Arsenal, maybe Chelsea, who have kind of fallen down the wayside. So I think that's also a really good option as well. But yeah, I do think it's what I never think there's like a right way to play. I think it's very much just what you want to get out of it. And I think that, like I say, with this in mind, with me, I really want to try and get into that top 50k in the next 3-4 game weeks. And to do that, I'm not going to do it just by doing exactly the same as everyone else. And I would also say I'm not going to be different for different sake. I'm just going to try and accelerate an opportunity because, all those players we mentioned, all those captaincies we mentioned are all really good options that we haven't got at the moment. So hopefully that kind of answers. What's your thoughts at the moment on wildcarding?
I think this season has dictated that we can't really stick to the normal layout that most would do. And I think that until we really have the fixtures, I completely get why people are wildcarding. And I think that, it's a good time. You can really have a think about it. You can really refresh your squad. But for me, I'd be nervous without having those, those other fixtures scheduled in, really. And I am hoping that we get them literally scheduled in for the rest of the season when we get them, and not just, oh, these few are in here and these few are in here. Because I think if you've got the fixtures for the rest of the season, you can plan when to wildcard. to either, as you say, stay where you are or gain some ground. I think if we get, like we have done, which is this trickle feed of when these extra fixtures are going in, then I think we just have to wildcard whenever, whenever it suits us best and based on what team we have, because this season just dictates it. There is no other real option. I don't think we can just stick a pin in it now and go game week, 28, game week 30, definitely. I think, like you said, there's a couple of options there you've given. I think they're good options. It'll be nice to, I think, see when the fixtures fall, whether those options become, viable. Just a quick shout out to Nathan and Rafiki in the chat. Hi, guys. Just before we wrap up, I'm going to kind of get you, though, to kind of like stick 5 names to the wall that if you were wildcarding this week, you would definitely have in your team.
Wow, if I was wildcarding this week.
Yes, so if you were wildcarding ahead of game week 24, who would be your top 5 must-haves?
Obviously, regardless of price and stuff, yeah? Obviously, just whoever. I think De Bruyne, Cancelo, I think they're the 2 I would go for City. I think Bruno's scaring me, and he hasn't so far this season.
That's interesting, because now that I have him, I'm like, oh. He really scared me before I had him, but now that I have him, I'm like, what have I done?
It all depends on whether Ronaldo plays or not, because obviously he didn't play the one and he came off early in the second, and Bruno just turns into a different machine when Ronaldo's not on the pitch.
Agreed.
I'm hoping Ronaldo's on the pitch because I'm going for Ronaldo. Well, I'm going to go for Ronaldo as well.
Okay.
I can't really get that excited for Spurs, even though they got the double. I think Southampton will be a tough game. I think Wolves will be a tough game for them. I think Man City will, so I'm going to avoid those. Liverpool, I think you just got to have.
Do you go Salah on your wild card? Currently, it's a bit hard to know, isn't it? At the moment, I guess with tomorrow ahead, but
yeah, I'd say no.
With the information, probably no.
Luka Dean would definitely be in my wildcard team, 100%. So we got Cancelo, De Bruyne, Ronaldo, Luka Dean, and I'll go for Trent. I know it's a boring one, but you've got to have Trent, Cancelo. You just got to forget and leave them in. They're just the best value, the most amazing plays in the game. So
absolutely, I agree. I agree.
I think they're my 5 at the moment.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't be far off. I think, I'd find it tough whether to go Bruno or Ronaldo. I think if Ronaldo's playing, then I'd prefer him, which I do assume he will be. But yeah, that's tough. But I think I asked you the question, and I am now like, what would I do? But no, I think those 5 are definitely up there. A couple of people saying Edouard in the chat. They would have him. And I think Rafiki said thoughts on Waghurst. And we discussed him a little bit earlier, Buddy. And as Migtavius has pointed out, I think our take was Waghurst is tall, circa...
Very tall. He's just tall. That's what he's
Fergie.
Exactly. I would also say, though, if I was wildcard, I'd be careful with I think Bowen as well, because they're home to Watford, away to Leicester. I think it'd be easy, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not wildcarding is because I've got Bowen and Antonio. I think those 2 fixtures and Newcastle after that, I think they're really good fixtures. So I'd probably put Bowen in as well, actually, because that game home to Watford, he could make a haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Nathan said Fergie mentioned 4 out of 5 my wildcard players. Happy days. He picked Ronaldo over Fernandes, but I fear the reverse 50-50. Of the last Man United double game. I'm in exactly the same situation, Nathan. I now have Bruno where I had Ronaldo last time, and I am too in fear of the reverse situation because I know what my luck is like. So with that, that is it today, guys. That's our 5 things FPL for Game Week 24. Have an amazing game week when it finally gets here next Tuesday. Let us know if you enjoyed the stream in the comments below. Please like, sub, hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live next. You can also find a link to Fergie's Twitter below, which will take you to all of his content that he produces. But it's a goodbye from now from me and a goodbye from Fergie.
It is. I've actually lost more hair since the deadline. It's been so long. I've actually lost the last of my hairs. But,
oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, bad times.
Best of luck, everyone, for the game week. You know, it's really, you know, massive opportunities in these coming weeks to really climb the ranks. So enjoy it and best of luck.
Thanks for joining me, buddy. Nymfria times Fergie out.